The Galactic King watched the recording again, slower this time. The human woman blinked once, maybe twice. Her lips barely moved. Her tone was gentle, not commanding. No war horns, no raised voice. And yet, in under 3 minutes, she'd condemned an entire pirate armada to a mathematically inevitable death. She had said, given your fleet's current angle of approach, and considering the electromagnetic wake from your lead ship's modified drives, your hulls will resonate at a critical frequency within 41 seconds. We've released 3 drones calibrated to exploit that. This is a courtesy call. Then she'd sipped her tea. And then, just as promised 41 seconds later, 16 warships folded into fire. The king's fingers curled against the throne's cold armrest. Behind him, marble wings of alien advisors spread and shimmered, each from a different species, each reeking of unease cloaked in formal silk and falsified calm. She looks like she'd apologize for stepping on your foot, murmured Admiral Crothall of the Vrex Dominion, spitting a glob of bitter oil into a ceremonial basin. Is this what they sent to negotiate now? A librarian in soft shoes. She's just a woman, said the king, more to himself than to the court. Just a woman with a clipboard and a mug. A whispering chuckle slithered through the council. But not from everyone. Ambassador Cerilin of the Lythus Quadrant, ancient and blind in both eyes, adjusted his translation lens with deliberate care. She drinks tea while orchestrating destruction. She warns before killing. That is not kindness. That is confidence. The king did not respond. He only waved a gloved hand. A star chart bloomed into the air before them, Earth's orbital sphere, rotating slowly like a fruit waiting to be plucked. Send the 5. The room fell silent. Crothall straightened. Your Majesty, are you certain? That. I said send them. The king's voice cracked through the chamber, like a blade over dry bone. If she wants to speak in polite riddles and predictive equations, let her answer to something older than words. I want her blood on marble. So it was decided. 5 names. 5 nightmares. They had no single origin. No single cause. They were beings pulled from myth and memory, from planetary legends whispered to unruly children. Each had killed kings. Each had never failed. The Vrex warrior Greneth stood taller than 3 men, armored in his own molted bone. The Solarii assassin, Niel, shimmered through walls and photons. The Orthus brute, Urak, could punch through steel with one arm. The Kiner whisperer, known only as Thresh, released neurotoxin by merely exhaling. And then back, no one remembered his name, only the hushed terror he left behind. They boarded 5 silent ships. No flags. No signatures. Just breathless speed through black. And at the edge of a quiet moon base on Earth's far side, General Haley Granger stirred milk into her tea with a honey stick shaped like a bear. She was older than most generals, 48 Earth years, with a stubborn streak of silver in her braid and an old scar behind her right ear that pulsed when storms approached. She wore wool, not armor. Her boots were muddy. Her nails were clipped short, though the pinky on her right hand was always painted blue. Ma'am, said Lieutenant Cole, sliding a secure tablet across the garden table. Intercepted transmission. 5 high-value alien signatures en route. Non-linear patterns. Advanced stealth systems. Haley didn't look at the screen. She turned her face to the morning light. Birds chirped from solar-powered speaker trees, mockingbirds by request. How long? 6 hours, best estimate. She took a long sip. Did you bring the boxes? Cole hesitated. The boxes? The coffins, dear. 5 of them. I had them made 2 weeks ago. Shipped from Mars iron. Polished steel. Soft interior. We don't want to be unkind. He blinked. You knew. She smiled. They're very proud, you know. Can't stand being embarrassed by a woman who gardens. Cole opened his mouth, then closed it. Haley stood, brushing her hands on her skirt. Prep the field, Lieutenant. Non-lethal visual camo. I want them to feel clever until the end. Which end? Their own, of course. Back at the Galactic Palace, one of the king's advisors dared to whisper, "What if this doesn't work? What if she?" "She's a woman," the king snapped. "You forget your place." Earth has grown arrogant. It's time they remembered their scale. But Earth, it turned out, did not need reminders. Earth remembered everything. Earth waited, like old wolves do, beneath smiles and polite nods. In a chamber buried beneath her moon base, Haley traced her fingers over a star map etched into ancient wood. Every assassination attempt, every method, she'd studied them all. The empire repeated itself. They always underestimated calm. They always mistook restraint for weakness. She whispered, "There's something comforting about their patterns." Above her, satellites twitched. Drones whispered across low orbit. Defensive algorithms, disguised as background radiation, shimmered into readiness. Her succulents vibrated in low frequency. One of them bloomed. She looked at it. A rare species from Terra 9. Sharp edges, soft color. Beautiful. Lethal to the touch. Cole returned. "All boxes are ready. Last chance to issue a warning." Haley tilted her head. "Did they warn me?" "No." She smiled. Then they wouldn't appreciate the gesture. 3 hours later, a bird stopped singing. One of the garden drones short-circuited, falling from the air with a twitch. Haley glanced up from her tea. "They're here," she said. 5 ships decloaked in orbit. But Haley did not run. She did not hide. She set her mug on the saucer with a delicate clink. The sound echoed, amplified, unnatural. It was the trigger. Each of the assassins landed in a different quadrant of the base. Each had a different plan, and each had already been countered. Because Haley Granger had not just prepared the field. She was the field. One stepped into a corridor that collapsed behind him. Magnetic seal. Vacuumed. Imploded. Another glided through a wall and found themselves looped inside a false gravity trap. Their molecules scattered across nanite dust. The Kiner Whisperer reached the garden and inhaled the air. His last breath tasted like rosewater and cyanide. All 5 died within 8 minutes. No alarms. No war cries. Just silent, clean extinction. Haley returned to her tea. It was still warm. 5 sent. 5 received, she said, scribbling the words on a note card. Cole returned an hour later. "Shall I inform command?" "No need. Let the coffin speak." The 5 boxes were loaded with grace. Inside each, a name tag, a single earth flower, and a metal card etched with her seal. Cole looked nervous. "This'll cause a war." Haley shook her head. "No, Lieutenant. This was the war. They just didn't realize they'd already lost." He stared at her. "And if they send more?" She paused, then smiled. "I'll order more coffins." In the throne room of the Galactic King, the silence after the message was colder than vacuum. The 5 boxes had arrived. The contents had been confirmed. And inside the 6th? Only a note. "We recommend discontinuing this behavior." The king crushed the card in one hand. "She wants to play." Saralin adjusted his lens again, the room's tension pulling taut. "No," he said softly. "She already is." And somewhere on Earth's moon, beneath blooming stars and the whisper of soft garden soil, Haley Granger began preparing the next 5. Not out of fear, but because she knew the Empire wouldn't stop. She plucked a leaf from her succulent. "Such stubborn things," she murmured. "They grow stronger when pruned." And then, distant in the black, a shadow moved, a 6th ship arriving. Haley's eyes narrowed. Now that, she whispered, was not on the schedule. The Vrex assassin landed like thunder. His ship didn't need stealth. It was arrogance incarnate. Black iron forged from hollowed meteors. Its claws dug into the moon's surface, as if to claim it. Greneth disembarked in silence, dragging his jagged blade behind him like a child's toy. His breath steamed in the vacuum. No suit. No oxygen. Just rage and muscle wrapped in ancestral scars. Haley Granger watched him from the garden terrace, her tea steaming gently in the lunar chill. The temperature outside was brutal, but her base was climate-sealed. She liked the chill on her glass walls. It reminded her that the void was never far away. "Vrex confirmed," said Lieutenant Cole over the comm, coming in direct. "He's not subtle." "They never are," she murmured, sipping. "Trigger field 10. Greneth charged. Not cautiously. Not cleverly. He sprinted with the confidence of a species that had never known failure. Haley's exterior dome flickered, then shimmered as projected foliage emerged, moss, vines, soft ferns. A lovely illusion. But beneath it, tiny mechanical roots began to vibrate. When Greneth hit the clearing, the moss bloomed into flame. It wasn't an explosion. It was an orchestration. Thousands of microblasts sequenced by Haley's Garden AI, targeted specifically to his neural density. Not fatal, not yet, but disorienting. He staggered. Then the birds came. Tiny drone hawks, painted with earth tones and armed with soundbar talons. They dove, sliced, vanished into the simulated canopy. By the time Greneth raised his blade, his balance was gone. One final burst hit him center mass. He collapsed in the Garden of Illusions. "I've always hated that one," Haley said softly, standing as the dome sealed. He made a mess. Inside the control room, Cole looked pale. "First one down. 4 to go," she said, already turning. "And these will try to be clever." The Solarii assassin didn't land. She descended, a shimmer of light twisting into shape on the upper hall of the greenhouse, like the moon had blinked and grown a halo. Niall of the Solarii moved through photons. She had no body in the traditional sense. Her presence bent reality. Surveillance couldn't hold her. But Haley didn't rely on surveillance. She relied on expectation. Niall phased through the greenhouse wall like a passing thought. It was too quiet, too still. A library. That's what Haley had called it. A room filled with paper and silence. No traps, no lasers, just oak shelves, earth novels, and a single reading chair beneath a brass lamp. Niall moved toward it, curious. And then the door shut. No sound, just sealed atmosphere. Inside, the room became very cold. Outside, Cole watched from the control room. She's in the compression cell. Haley leaned in. Temperature. -100 and rising. Niall shimmered, tried to shift. The particles around her began to break apart, misalign, twitch in ways unlight should not. The brass lamp shattered. Shelves buckled. But she couldn't escape. Not without a body. The compression cell wasn't just cold. It was calibrated to inhibit waveforms. A theory Haley had tested once on a butterfly made of plasma. Niall's scream was like glass cracking. And then there was silence. Cole exhaled. "You're 2 for 2. "I told you," Haley said. "They underestimate women who read." The Orthus brute dropped from orbit without warning. No ship. Just a pod wrapped around raw fury. Urak landed so hard the base shook. Dust bloomed for miles. Alarms chimed politely. He tore through the outer fence like tissue. Hydraulic joints in his arms flexed with every step. His breath left steam against the shield glass. He didn't care about finesse. He was built to break. Haley watched him from inside the greenhouse as he advanced across the simulation field. "He's fast," Cole said, checking sensors. "Watch." Urak entered the orchard, rows of harmless cherry trees. The air was sweet. Earth bees hummed artificially. The brute crushed the trunk of the first tree, and with it, triggered 20 hidden pressure pads. The ground fell out from beneath him. He dropped into a pit lined with silvery dust. "Is that thermite?" Cole asked wide-eyed. "Slow burning?" Haley nodded. "Had it flavored with cinnamon. Let him enjoy his last moments." Cole grimaced. Urak's roars became screams. Then nothing. The cherry trees above remained still, as if untouched. In the upper reaches of the base, the Kiner Whisperer had already arrived. Thresh moved like breath, quiet, invisible, scentless. A shadow inside a whisper. He'd poisoned entire capitals with a sigh. No trace. No witnesses. Just sleep. He made his way through the venting shafts, down into the kitchen. Haley stood at the counter, stirring a pot. She didn't turn around. "Hello." Thresh froze. He was invisible, undetectable. "I used your species' spores in this," she said gently. "They respond to pheromone clusters. That's how I found you." The pot bubbled. "You'll start feeling dizzy in 3, 2. Thresh collapsed. The steam had carried a neural pulse, meant to mimic his own frequency. Haley leaned over him, looking almost curious. You should have brought a helmet. She slid a small glass vial into his mouth. His eyes flickered, then rolled back. Cole stared as Haley re-entered the command center. "For down." "They're not even adapting," she said sadly. "It's disappointing." The final one didn't attack. The back assassin had landed hours earlier and watched. His craft hovered in orbit, cloaked beyond visual, waiting for the right moment. But as he reviewed the patterns, something gnawed at him. Too clean. Too fast. The others had not sent distress signals. Their signals had ended. The NVAC were not emotional. They operated in logic, in probability. The numbers were wrong. And then his ship's systems flickered. Not violently. Just enough. The air recycling hissed. A strange scent drifted. Sweet. Earthy. He reached for the control pad and found his fingers numb. The courier drone. The one that had approached his ship on entry, claiming to carry diplomatic chocolates. He hadn't eaten any, but he'd touched the wrapping. The wrapping was laced. He slumped in his seat, the stars spinning. A final message escaped his ship, automated, triggered by his death. A single word, don't. Hours later, 5 ships left orbit. Each carried a coffin. 5 different shapes. 5 different symbols. And in the control room, Cole whispered, "You did it." "No," Haley said, gently adjusting the cuffs of her sweater. "They did it." Cole frowned. "Ma'am." She looked out over the field. The cherry trees had been restored. The moss regrown. The books reshelved. The base looked untouched. Untouched and unforgiving. "They made a choice," she said. I only answered. Cole hesitated, then asked, "Should I send a response?" "No words," she said. "Let them open the boxes." Cole tapped a single key. 5 drones leapt into hyperspace. Inside each coffin, 1 dead assassin, 1 flower native to Earth, 1 metal card engraved in quiet calligraphy. "This concludes your attempt." Cole said nothing more. He simply watched her. Haley walked through her garden, fingers brushing petals engineered to survive in void. The birds chirped again, harmonizing like a hymn. The camera at her shoulder blinked. "Everything's quiet now," Cole offered. Haley didn't answer. Because in the distance, beyond her field of flowers, a 6th coffin sat unfinished. It was smaller, polished, lined in velvet, reserved. The nameplate hadn't been etched yet, but she knew who it was for. The first coffin arrived in silence. No escort, no transmission, no insignia. Just a drifting box of silver steel, its surface unmarred except for a small engraving near the handle, with compliments. It floated through the Imperial outer shell without triggering alarms, as if the systems recognized something far older than code, as if even the satellites knew not to interfere. Inside the throne chamber of the Galactic Empire's capital, it slid to a halt before the high receiving platform, a dais reserved for royal declarations and war trophies. Courtiers stared. Officers muttered. A single guard approached, eyes narrowed, weapon drawn. The coffin hissed. Not open. Not warning. Just breathing. As though it were alive. Moments later, 4 more appeared, one after the other, equidistant, equiangular. Orbit adjusted. Vectors aligned. Precision so perfect, it unnerved the room more than any threat would have. "They're from Earth," someone whispered. No logos. No radiation. No signature. "How did they breach the sky?" another asked. "Do you want to open it?" came a third voice. Quiet. Almost trembling. King Malrux remained silent on his throne of bone and crystal. His hands curled around the twin serpent arms of the seat, jaw tense, teeth grinding behind lips, made soft by centuries of luxury. He hadn't moved in 5 minutes. The coffin before him bore the sigil of the Vrex Dominion, burned into its side like a mark of shame. A clawed palm. Greneth's symbol. The king's voice came slow, almost hoarse. "Open it." Admiral Crothall stepped forward. Armor gleamed like obsidian. He nodded to a pair of attendants, specially bred beings, with eyes shielded from emotional radiation. They moved as one, triggered the lid. It lifted with a hush. Gas escaped. Not toxic, just the scent of orchids. Inside lay Greneth, or what was left of him, His body had been cleaned, wrapped in a woven blanket. A single flower rested on his chest, something alien, with blue petals and a yellow stem. Harmless looking. Peaceful. Too peaceful. The room remained frozen. Then the second coffin opened on its own. Inside, Niall the Solarii, or rather, her core crystal, gently laid in a velvet-lined dish, surrounded by fragments of shattered photonic matter, encased in glass. The dish sat atop a folded white cloth, as if this were some diplomatic ceremony. Someone in the crowd began to cry. The third box revealed Urak, seared and stilled. His body had been soothed with synthetic balm, his hands crossed. He looked like a sculpture of defeat. The fourth held Thresh, preserved inside a temperature-controlled capsule, with a handwritten note beside his helmet. The note read, "He breathed first. I simply responded." By the time the fifth opened and revealed the back operative, barely discolored, still upright, eyes sealed in artificial serenity, the court had begun to fracture. Some shouted for war. Others began retreating into side chambers. The king stood at last. "Where is the message?" he demanded. "Where is the declaration of hostility? The human banners? The coded insults?" "There is none, your majesty," murmured Saralin, the ancient Lythis ambassador, leaning on his crystalline cane. "They sent the result, not the rhetoric." Crothel growled. "This is mockery. Cowardice masked as restraint." "No," Saralin said gently. "This is theater. Every gesture deliberate. Every silence louder than our missiles." The king turned to the central dais. Holograms bloomed. Earth's last broadcast on public channels. General Haley Granger, mid-speech, standing beside a garden of red leaves. Her voice was kind. "We regret the necessity, but you left no choice. Violence, when unprovoked, is terrorism. When reciprocated, it's an equation. We solve what's sent." She smiled, not triumphantly, almost sorrowfully. Behind her, the leaves swayed in artificial wind. "No threats. No bragging," the king hissed. "What is this woman?" Saralin didn't answer. He only watched. Across the galaxy, whispers bloomed faster than strategy. Planets once aligned with the Empire began hesitating. Treaty councils requested clarification. Neutral systems declared re-evaluation phases. On the outer rim, a small moon broadcast, "Earth will not be antagonized." The 5 coffins were not war. They were prophecy, each a warning, a lesson, a seed of doubt. The king turned sharply. "Prepare the fleets. Silence Earth sky. I want her ash drifting through their sun." "But your majesty," a diplomat dared. Malrux's voice rose like iron scraping bone. "Do it." Lights flared across the chamber. Systems roared to life. Warships mobilized. Generals snapped into formation. But even as the orders unfurled, something cracked. An undercurrent. Not sound. Not smell. Just presence. One of the coffins, the 5th, trembled. A small slit opened on its side. A drawer. Inside, a single object, a small metal card. No transmission. No flare. Just a smooth, brushed steel rectangle. The king picked it up himself. 5 words. "This concludes your first mistake." He dropped it. Across the throne room, silence deepened into something sharp. On Earth, Haley Granger walked slowly through her garden, boots brushing against frost-resistant petals. The moon-based sky was dim. Soft clouds rolled across the dome. Artificial stars flickered on. Cole followed quietly. He hadn't spoken much since the launch. "They opened the boxes," he said finally. Haley nodded. "And they're panicking. Intelligence suggests over 90 fleet mobilizations across 3 sectors." "That's a lot of energy to waste," she murmured. Cole hesitated. "Do you think they'll attack?" "They'll consider it. But they saw what you did. What we did." Haley knelt to inspect a flower. A purple orchid, rare even by Earth standards. "The proud often mistake pain for warning," she said softly. "They'll try to reclaim dignity." She stood, wiped her gloves clean. "And I prepared for that too." He looked uneasy. "They'll come in numbers. Millions, maybe." "I won't need millions," she said. "Just timing." From beneath her coat, She pulled a small clicker. Pressed once. Above them, in orbit, one of Earth's hidden satellites pivoted. The code it ran wasn't war class. It was something older, slower. A whisper into the void. Back on the galactic throne world, the king received an emergency signal. All long-range transmissions had gone dark. Every ship prepping for war was now mute. Not damaged, just silenced. No commands. No coordination. No sound. Like a funeral. "What have they done?" he spat. And in the silence, Saralyn answered. "They sent the Coffins first." In the moon base command chamber, Cole studied the incoming feeds. Fleet systems are rebooting. Slowly. Like something's watching. Waiting. Haley nodded. "It's not a virus." "No. It's a door. They can open it when I say." She turned back to her greenhouse. The plants were thriving. "Shall I warn them?" Cole asked. "No," she said. "They've already been warned." She paused, gaze distant. "But I'll send one last thing." Cole raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Haley didn't answer. She opened a crate near the garden. Inside a coffin. Empty. Smaller than the rest. Perfectly polished. She reached for the engraving tool and, with steady hands, etched a single name. Mal Rux. Cole swallowed. "You're provoking them." "No," she said. "I'm preparing them." As she set the lid gently on the box, her voice lowered to something almost tender. They wanted to play executioner. She looked up, her eyes like polished stone. "But they forgot the part where we dig graves, too." The fleet shimmered above Earth like a storm carved in metal. Thousands of dreadnoughts, orbit crushers, Hive-class seed ships, and stealth lancers, each bearing the sigil of a wounded empire. The Coffins had humiliated them. The silence that followed had only deepened the wound. Now they wanted thunder. King Mal Rux stood aboard the royal flagship Dusk Sovereign, the bridge humming with pressure, his armored robe dragging behind him like shadow. "No more messages," he ordered, voice low. "No more warnings. We strike." They hadn't seen her for 12 days. No footage. No broadcasts. The woman, General Haley Granger, had gone quiet, leaving the galaxy spinning theories. Had she fled? Died? Hidden underground, like some clever rat waiting for the storm to pass? Mal Rux wanted her dead not because she'd killed his assassins, but because she hadn't bragged about it. Because she hadn't gloated. Because she had returned them in silence and let the galaxy do the math. That was the part that stuck in his mind. The silence. The kind that makes grown things fear the dark again. "All ships," Mal Rux said, stepping to the central dais. "Target Earth's northern hemisphere. Strategic saturation. Planetary relay centers. Tactical command nodes. Capital cities." Admiral Crothall flinched. "Your Majesty, our intelligence suggests their orbital systems are oddly dormant. It may be a trap." "I hope it is," the king said. Across the bridge, holograms rippled. Earth's skies mapped out like open veins. His generals whispered coordinates. Targeting markers slid into position. Then came the flicker. A single ship decloaked. Not an Earth ship. Not a war vessel. A pod. Small. Round. Like a courier's bag. It drifted in front of the Dusk Sovereign. Its exterior marked with human script. Simple. Poetic. Some things bloom only under pressure. Crothall moved first. "Destroy it." But Mal Rux raised a hand. "Wait." The pod opened. Inside was a book. Leather-bound. Earth-made. And beneath it, a handwritten letter. The bridge scanned and translated instantly. The contents unfolded across every screen. "To whom it may concern. I did not summon war. You walked toward it willingly. You mistook stillness for fear and elegance for fragility. I prepared your coffins as a courtesy. This time, I have not prepared anything. This time, the galaxy will prepare you. HG. No threat. No order. Just words." But the tension that filled the bridge could have cracked glass. "She's bluffing," Crothall muttered. "She has no fleet. We've seen no movements." "I don't think she needs one," whispered Saralyn, who had been standing at the edge of the dais the entire time, silent as frost. "She's made a weapon of reputation." Outside, Earth remained still. Its sky was littered with satellites, but none responded. Its ships hadn't launched. Cities pulsed with light, but no alarms blared. They were waiting. That was worse than firing. Malrux clenched his jaw. Begin countdown. Fire everything. The commands were issued. Systems flared. Weapons spun. From the vast mouths of the siege ships, payloads armed. But before the countdown could end, the sky blinked. Just blinked. Like someone had drawn a curtain between reality and nightmare. And suddenly, the Dusk Sovereign lost power. So did the ships beside it. And then, the entire left arm of the fleet. Not explosion. Not EMP. Disappearance. Thousands of tons of metal matter and memory simply unraveled, folded inward and gone, like paper in firelight. Malrux screamed. Status. What was that? Crothel stared at the void, unable to speak. The sky blinked again. This time, the center column of ships went dark. Not destroyed, disassembled. Even now, Earth didn't fire a shot. It just watched. From the moon base greenhouse, Haley stood by the glass. A white scarf lay over her shoulders. Her hair, silver-streaked and wind-blown, caught the light of a blooming aurora above the planet. Cole stood beside her, pale. Ma'am, it's begun. She nodded. They pressed the doorbell. You could have ended it before they arrived. Yes, she said softly. But then they would have blamed theory. Or superstition. Now they'll remember certainty. Back in the Dusk Sovereign, systems attempted to reboot. Partial power returned. Holograms sputtered. Ships spun off course. Crews screamed over failing comms. Malrux slammed his fist into the console. Tracked the anomaly. But there was no anomaly. No beam. No bomb. Just human software, seeded over years. Woven into the Empire's own tech, smuggled through captured drones, recycled materials, diplomatic firmware. Earth had been preparing not for war, but for inevitability. And now that preparation whispered its name. Entropy. Crothel's voice broke through the static. Our own systems are eating themselves. Across the bridge, feeds lit up. Each screen now displayed Haley. Not live. A recording. She sat in a chair. Behind her, a quiet garden. Sunflowers. By the time you see this, she said gently, you'll have reached the point of no return. That's not a threat. It's a calculation. She didn't blink. I didn't send an invitation to war. I never would. But you opened it anyway. Her eyes darkened just slightly. You believed Earth's strength came from numbers. From ships. From noise. But that was never true. The camera zoomed slowly on her face. We don't win by shouting louder. We win by waiting longer. She stood, walking to the edge of frame. Enjoy the silence. The feed cut. Then came the final act. Earth's sky opened, not with weapons, but with mirrors. Thousands of stealth satellites activated in tandem, refracting light, warping visual fields. The Galactic fleet saw not Earth, but themselves, targets, twisted and duplicated across distorted fields. Their own ships began firing at reflections. Half the fleet tore itself apart in 37 seconds. The rest attempted retreat. But the stars were gone. The surrounding space had been folded, a temporary corridor. A dead zone engineered with stolen graviton patterns from the Vrex, the Nvac, and the Kiner, all learned through the corpses Haley had studied. They were not just assassins. They were textbooks, now weaponized into a theater of collapse. Inside the base, Cole stared at the final feed. It's over. No, Haley said. It's recorded. Cole turned. We didn't kill them all. No. The story did. She walked to the transmission chamber, pressed record. She appeared on every surviving Galactic channel. This time it was live. No dramatics. No orchestration. Just a woman in a garden, brushing dirt from her gloves. I am General Haley Granger, she said, and I'd like to apologize. The words sent ripples across 10,000 systems. I apologize that it came to this. I offered silence. You demanded spectacle. Now you have both. She paused. I will not retaliate further. I do not need to. The galaxy now knows who pressed first. A beat. And who closed the hand. She reached beside her, lifted the final coffin. Not yet sealed. I kept one empty, she said softly. But after today, I don't need to send it. Because every corridor in your empire will feel it. Every dinner, every council vote, every time you look at Earth in your maps, you'll remember the weight. She placed the lid, let it close with a whisper. War was never an invitation. Then she ended the feed, and Earth said no more. The Galactic Empire, shattered and leaderless, stumbled toward quiet. But Haley? She returned to the garden, and beneath her boots, the soil bloomed.